Once upon a time, in the land of bathtubs and bubbles, there existed a legend so absurd, so fantastically ridiculous, that it had been whispered about for over 500 years. It was the story of a solid gold bath duck. Yes, you heard that right, a bath duck, said to bring unimaginable luck to anyone fortunate enough to own it. But as with all great legends, there was more to this tale than just shiny metal and quacking good fortune. The legend began in the quaint village of Saponaville, a place so obsessed with cleanliness that its inhabitants bathed not once, not twice, but thrice a day. They believed that a clean body led to a clean soul, and in Saponaville, nothing was dirtier than a soul. The village, as the story goes, was the birthplace of the illustrious Duck of Destiny. 5 centuries ago, a particularly eccentric and wealthy lord by the name of Sir Bubblesworth the Sudsy ruled over Saponaville. Sir Bubblesworth was known for 2 things, his insatiable love for baths and his obsession with gold. When he wasn't soaking in his enormous porcelain tub, which had been imported from the far-off land of Lavenderia, he was collecting every shiny, golden object he could lay his soapy hands on. One day, Sir Bubblesworth had an idea so outlandish that even his closest advisors thought he'd finally lost his bubbles. What if, Sir Bubblesworth mused, I combined my 2 greatest loves? And thus, the concept of the solid gold bath duck was born. Sir Bubblesworth immediately commissioned the finest goldsmiths in the land to craft this masterpiece. The duck was to be made entirely of pure gold, with every feather, beak, and even the tiny webbed feet meticulously sculpted. The golden artisans toiled day and night, pouring their sweat and tears, though not into the gold, of course, into the creation of this legendary duck. After months of labor, the Duck of Destiny was completed, and it was glorious. The duck was a thing of beauty, gleaming and radiant. It reflected light so brilliantly that it was said to have blinded several onlookers upon its first unveiling. Sir Bubblesworth was ecstatic. He christened it the Quacktastic Quacker, a name that would live on in infamy. But Sir Bubblesworth wasn't content with simply owning this golden marvel. He wanted it to be a symbol of his legacy. And so, he decreed that the duck would be passed down through the generations, from one bather to the next, as a symbol of luck and prosperity. Little did he know that this decree would spark a chain of events so bizarre that even the greatest storytellers of the time couldn't have predicted it. As the years went by, the legend of the Quacktastic Quacker grew. It was said that whoever possessed the golden duck would be blessed with the most extraordinary luck. Farmers who owned it found their crops flourishing even in the harshest droughts. Merchants experienced booming business despite economic downturns, and one particularly unfortunate tailor, who had lost all 10 of his fingers in a freak sewing accident, suddenly found himself growing a new set of fingers, plus an extra thumb for good measure. Of course, these stories were passed down with much exaggeration, each retelling more ludicrous than the last. Despite its reputation, the Quacktastic Quacker's luck wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. In fact, some would say that its luck was a double-edged sword. For every blessing it bestowed, there was a corresponding curse that followed close behind. Take, for example, the tale of Marigold the maid. Marigold was a humble servant who, by a twist of fate, inherited the golden duck from her employer, Lady Latherington. Upon receiving the duck, Marigold's life turned around overnight. She won the village lottery, found a treasure chest buried in her backyard, and even discovered that her pet hamster could perform complex algebra. But then, just as quickly, her luck soured. The lottery money turned out to be counterfeit, the treasure chest was filled with nothing but moldy cheese, and her hamster, overcome with the existential dread of advanced mathematics, ran away to join a circus. Marigold, like many before her, learned that the duck's luck was as unpredictable as a sneeze in a windstorm. Word of the Quacktastic Quacker spread far and wide, attracting attention from all corners of the world. Adventurers, fortune-seekers, and charlatans alike flocked to Saponaville in search of the legendary duck. It wasn't long before the village was overrun with treasure maps, fake golden ducks, and dubious duck diviners claiming to have the power to locate the real Quacktastic Quacker. One particularly memorable incident involved a man known only as the Duck Whisperer, who insisted that he could communicate with bath ducks of all kinds. He claimed to have received visions from the Quacktastic Quacker itself, revealing that it was hidden in a secret chamber beneath the village's bathhouse. This revelation led to a frenzied excavation that ultimately uncovered nothing but an underground lake of dirty bathwater and a very annoyed colony of newts. The legend of the Golden Duck only grew with each passing year, with more and more people falling under its spell. And yet, despite all the chaos and madness it caused, no one ever managed to keep the Quacktastic Quacker for long. It always seemed to slip away, like soap in a hot bath, only to resurface in the most unexpected places. One day, many centuries later, the Quacktastic Quacker found itself in the possession of a peculiar young man named Archibald Duckworthy. Archie, as he was known to his friends, was not your average hero. He wasn't particularly brave, nor was he especially clever. But what Archie lacked in traditional heroic qualities, he made up for with a boundless curiosity and an unshakable belief in the absurd. Archie stumbled upon the Golden Duck quite by accident. He was exploring the attic of his great-great-great-great-grandfather's cottage when he tripped over a loose floorboard and fell face-first into a dusty old chest. Inside, nestled among moth-eaten blankets and tarnished silverware, was the Quacktastic Quacker, shining as brightly as the day it was forged. Archie, being a bit of a history buff, recognized the duck immediately. He'd heard the stories, of course, who hadn't? But he never imagined he'd actually find the legendary Quacktastic Quacker himself. After all, what were the odds? Overwhelmed with excitement, Archie decided to test the duck's luck for himself. He carried it with him everywhere he went, from the village market to the local pub, and even to the annual Saponaville soap sculpture contest. At first, the duck seemed to work its magic. Archie won a year's supply of bubble bath, found a missing sock he'd lost 3 years ago, and even received a marriage proposal from the village baker's daughter, though he suspected that had more to do with the free bread she'd been giving him. But then, as the legend foretold, things began to take a turn for the worse. The bubble bath turned out to be expired and caused Archie to break out in hives. The missing sock, it turned out, was not his at all but belonged to the village blacksmith, who was none too pleased to see Archie walking around in it. And as for the marriage proposal, well, it turned out the baker's daughter had mistaken Archie for someone else entirely, a man named Archibald Duckham, who bore an uncanny resemblance to Archie, except for his dashing good looks and impressive mustache. Realizing that the Quacktastic Quacker's luck was more trouble than it was worth, Archie decided it was time to part ways with the Golden Duck. But how does one get rid of a legendary artifact that refuses to stay lost? Archie pondered this question long and hard until, finally, inspiration struck. Archie decided to hold a grand contest, inviting people from all over the world to compete for the Quacktastic Quacker. The challenge was simple. Whoever could come up with the most ridiculous, outlandish, and completely absurd reason why they deserved the duck would win it. The contest was held in the village square, and it quickly became the most talked-about event in Saponaville's history. Contestants came from far and wide, each with a story more preposterous than the last. There was Sir Quackalot, a knight who claimed he needed the duck to defeat a dragon made entirely of soap bubbles. There was Madame Fizzlebottom, an eccentric inventor who wanted to use the duck as the centerpiece for her bubble-powered flying machine. And then there was Professor Quackington, a self-proclaimed duckologist who insisted that the Quacktastic Quacker was actually an alien artifact sent to Earth to test humanity's intelligence, a test, he declared, that we were failing miserably. As the day wore on, it became clear that Archie had bitten off more than he could chew. The contest had attracted a crowd larger than any he could have imagined, and the stories were getting wilder by the minute. But just as he was about to throw in the towel, a strange figure appeared in the distance. The figure was tall and lanky, with a long cloak that billowed in the wind. As it drew closer, the crowd fell silent, their attention fixed on this mysterious newcomer. The figure approached the stage, removed its hood, and revealed a rubber duck costume. The crowd erupted into laughter, but the figure remained unfazed. In a deep, booming voice, the figure introduced itself as the Great Quackini, a master of chew, quackery, and illusion. The Great Quackini claimed that the Quacktastic Quacker had been his family's heirloom for generations, passed down from one great quack to the next. According to Quackini, the duck held the key to the greatest magic trick of all time, a trick so incredible that it would leave the world quacking in amazement. Intrigued, Archie invited the Great Quackini to perform his trick. With a flourish of his cloak, Quackini produced a deck of cards, a bouquet of rubber chickens, and a top hat from which he pulled a never-ending stream of bath bubbles. But just as the trick reached its climax, something unexpected happened. The Quacktastic Quacker, which had been sitting on a pedestal nearby, suddenly began to glow. The glow grew brighter and brighter until it enveloped the entire square, blinding everyone in its vicinity. When the light finally faded, the Quacktastic Quacker was gone, and so was the Great Quackini. The crowd was stunned, but Archie couldn't help but laugh. The Quacktastic Quacker had outdone itself once again, leaving behind nothing but a trail of bubbles and a memory that would last a lifetime. And so, the legend of the Quacktastic Quacker lived on, growing ever more ridiculous with each retelling. Some say the duck is still out there, waiting for its next lucky, or unlucky, owner. Others believe it has finally found peace in the hands of the Great Quackini, who continues to dazzle audiences with his quacktastic magic tricks. But one thing is certain, as long as there are bathtubs and bubbles, the story of the solid gold bath duck will never fade away, and neither will the laughter it brings. So the next time you take a bath, keep an eye out for a flash of gold. You never know, your luck might just take a quacktastic turn.